gas up the Jeep, it's good to be free. Load up the pans and fishing poles. The highway is long, the wheels turning round. Pack up the cook stove and the bowls. Arlo and I, we hit the open road. Arlo and I are on the road.
Hey everybody, well, Arlo and I are out and about again today, and we're gonna go do some mushroom hunting. And we've had quite a bit of rain recently. Oop, here comes a lumber truck. I gotta move off to the side here. Huh, look at that. Wow, they're doing a lot of logging out here. So my plan today is to go find some wild mushrooms, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to show you how not to cook wild mushrooms. So that's gonna be fun. So the first thing we gotta do is we gotta go find some. So I'm hoping to find a couple different kinds, and then we'll do it. Now that's what we're looking for right there. Look at that. This is a beautiful king bolete mushroom here. Look how nice and fresh that pore surface is there. It's nice and firm, just the way I like to find them. That is an amazing find there. I'm going to trim this up. So I'm just going to trim the bottom here. Arlo's excited to find this too. And then there we go. Look at that. That is a nice specimen there. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to take these scraps that I just trimmed off and bury them in the hole right here. I'll bury them in the hole that I found it. And let's see if we can find some more of these delicious mushrooms. Now, this is a great find. I'm super excited to find this. Now this is a white king bolete. It's called a Barrow's bolete, or a Boletus barrowsii. And this is a great one to find here. Now this is an absolute perfect example of the Caesar's Amanita when it's more in its egg shape. You can see this one is just emerging from that egg shaped vulva. See, let's pull that out of there and look at that. Now see how it has sort of a egg shape to it, and this is the rubbery kind of vulva that surrounds it when it was completely enclosed. But you can see as it's emerging from that, little bits of that vulva kind of stick to it. But we do know that this is a Caesar. Well, we know this is an Amanita because of this telltale vulva, but we do know that this is the Caesar's Amanita, as we can see, as if we peel this away, it has this yellow stem, and it also has these bright yellow gills, and that's a super important thing to look for, is the yellow gills. If it doesn't have yellow gills, it's not the Caesar's Amanita, and it most likely is not going to be edible. And the Amanita family has some of the most poisonous mushrooms in the world, so you need to be really sure when you're identifying mushrooms in this family. But this is a beautiful example of a Caesar's Amanita. Look at that. It's so pretty, so deep yellow, so beautiful. I mean, when they're young like this, they don't have any bugs, which is definitely a plus. And this is going to be perfect for our dish. Well, Arlo and I are back in the kitchen, and we have our beautiful mushrooms that we collected earlier. I have that beautiful Caesar's Amanita and that beautiful porcini king bolete. Now, at the beginning of this video, I promised that I was going to show you how not to cook a wild mushroom. And the thing is, sometimes the best way to eat a wild mushroom is to not cook it at all. But there are some things that you need to know before you do that. In general, most wild mushrooms, well, almost all wild mushrooms need to be cooked before you eat them. Now, even a common mushroom such as the morel has been known to make people sick or even kill people because they were eaten raw or they weren't cooked long enough. So it's always important to cook your wild mushrooms before you eat them. Now, there are a couple of types of mushrooms that you can eat raw, and it just happens to be that those are the mushrooms that we collected today. The Caesar's Amanita, you can definitely eat raw and is delicious, and also the porcini. This is also a mushroom that you can eat raw. So I'm going to show you sort of a simple and classic way to eat these mushrooms raw. I just have a few simple ingredients here. I have our mushrooms, of course. I have a little bit of walnut oil. I have some walnuts, some salt and pepper, a little bit of lemon, and of course we also gathered some of this bee balm from the woods the other day, which tastes a lot like oregano, so we're going to use some of that. Alright, let's make our plate. So the first thing we need to do is just slice our mushrooms really thinly. So I'm going to cut the end off here, and I'm going to start slicing very thin slices of our mushroom. This is, of course, our king bolete, our porcini mushroom. If you have a mandolin, that would work even better. You can make these really paper thin. So I'm just going to do that, those, and then we'll slice our Caesar's Amanita the same way, very, very thinly. And you can see you only want to do this when the mushrooms are perfect, when they're very young and they have no bugs and they're very solid. Okay, that should be enough for our plate. So I'm just going to arrange these just so our plate looks nice here. Look at that one, that's perfect. Just like this. Okay, I'm going to turn our plate and put our Caesar's Amanitas on the other side. Oh, and the smell of those mushrooms is incredible. Just that fresh smell of the forest. Okay. There we go. That looks nice already. Look at that. Now we're going to take our walnut oil and we're going to drizzle a little walnut oil over the mushrooms here, just like that. And then I'm going to squeeze a little lemon on the mushrooms as well. And then some salt and pepper. Some of our walnuts. Kind of carry through that walnut flavor from the walnut oil and add a little more crunch. And then I have our bee balm here, on which I'm going to crumble up some of these beautiful purple flowers all over it. There. All right, look at that. Actually, I'm going to put another just nice whole piece of that wild bergamot on top of there. Look at that. There's our plate. So really, doesn't get much more simple than that. I guess you'd call this maybe a wild mushroom carpaccio, or even just a wild mushroom salad. I'm actually going to drizzle a little more of this walnut oil on there. Oh, that smells so good with that. And that wild bergamot, that bee balm that we put on top, really smells and tastes like oregano, so that's really going to add a nice flavor to this. So here's one of those pieces of that Caesar's Amanita. I find that the Caesar's Amanita has the most delicious texture. It has like this kind of crispness to it that obviously you don't get when you cook a mushroom. And that's so good. And that walnut oil is perfect for mushrooms. I love that the nuttiness of it. Sort of kind of even has sort of like a roasty sort of a flavor to it. And it really complements the forest floor kind of a flavor that you get with this dish. I actually much prefer eating the Caesar's Amanita raw than I do to cooking them. They are good when you cook them, but I find that when you cook the Caesar's Amanita, it sort of has sort of a fishy flavor to it, which isn't bad depending on what you're cooking. And then, all right, and now the porcini. Now this is more of the classic mushroom that you would eat in this manner. And the smell, oh, I just love that. Also has a delicious texture to it, nice crispness, that raw mushroom crispness to it. Of course, the porcini or the cep, the king bolete, is one of the most sought after mushrooms in the world, and that's for a good reason, because it is so delicious. It really has that really deep mushroom flavor to it. It really lends itself well to eating raw like this. Some nice walnuts. Wow, that is so good. Walnut and the porcinis is a combination that just is made in heaven. It's just so delicious. This is really one of my favorite ways to eat mushrooms. And that bee balm is so amazing. It's so pungent, and that really sharp oregano type flavor to it really complements itself to this dish as well. All of these ingredients, the walnuts, the walnut oil, the mushrooms, and the bee balm really give you that sort of forest floor kind of flavor in all the best possible ways. And of course, lemon is always delicious, helps brighten this up and adds that little bit of acidity that this needs. Now you could use a little bit of vinegar, a little red wine vinegar or something like that if you'd rather, but I think the lemon works really well. So there you go, how not to cook a wild mushroom. Don't cook it at all. Just remember though, like I said earlier, you don't want to do this with just any mushroom. Only a couple of mushrooms, and these are like only two that I know that grow around here that I would actually do this with. Most mushrooms should always be cooked before you eat them. So it's always really important to cook your wild mushrooms. But in this case, if you do have the Caesar's Amanita or the porcini growing in the forest near you, this is a great way to eat them.
Gas up
So I'm going to finish this up, and actually I'm going to head back out to the woods and I'm going to find some more mushrooms. So if you like this video, please like, please subscribe, that always helps us a lot, and we will see you in the next one. Alright, bye.
Get the open road.